Hey VC, it's Jim. Wanted to do another vinyl finds. I added a turntable setup to my office this week. I realized that I've been listening to music in my office forever, but just never considered the idea of having a turntable at work. And then somebody at work mentioned it, and I thought, hey, that's a great idea. So I have a little setup there, and when I went to set it up, I realized that I hadn't brought any records to work. So I went out to the local thrift store and figured I'd pick up some crappy old record and just test the setup. And it turned out I found some interesting things there, which was kind of surprising because I haven't really found much there before. Anyways, I'll just quickly go through those, and then there's a few records that I came across at my local record store that were really nice finds. So quickly, the thrift store finds, all of these were like $1. It's a thrift store, so. But they were all in really good shape, and some of them were kind of interesting. First one's Neil Diamond, Rainbow. This is a collection, I think, from the early 70s, 73-ish, I think, and has some great stuff on it from his early stuff. What is all on here? Everybody's Talking, Chelsea Morning, Suzanne, Mr. Bojangles. It's got some fun stuff on it. I love that sort of early period from Neil Diamond. It's pretty schmaltzy still, but it's still fun. Then I found a copy of Give the People What They Want by the Kinks, in pretty good shape. It didn't have an inner sleeve, but you know, American pressing on Arista, era stuff. And the cover's got a little bit of edge wear, but for $1, you know, you can't turn down a Kinks record. So that was nice to have. Then this one's a little odd. Asphalt Cowboy. This is the soundtrack to Midnight Cowboy, but this is the German pressing, and so it's called Asphalt Cowboy. I have no idea why there's a German pressing here, but it's a great soundtrack. It's got the Nilsson song, Everybody's Talking, and I just thought it was kind of interesting to have a pressing that was just an odd German pressing with a different title for the movie. Copy of Empty Glass by Pete Townsend. Good record. You know, Let My Love Open the Door, and what was the other track on here that was a big hit? Rough Boys. So again, good deal. And all of these are in actually pretty good shape. None of them were too messy or worn out. It took a bit of digging to find good copies of things in there. There was some really bad stuff. Picked up a copy of Keith Carradine's second album. This is sort of quintessential 70s, easy listening, cheesy music, but for some reason Keith Carradine is just kind of cool, so I had to pick that up. Copy of Don McLean's, I believe, third record. This is the one that came out right after American Pie. I've never heard it, but I'm curious because, I grew up listening to American Pie, and then my whole life I thought Don McLean made one record and that was it. And I know he didn't now, but I thought it'd be interesting to hear what the follow-up record sounded like. A copy of Willie Nelson's 1979 Christmas record. For $1, I'm never going to pass up a Willie Nelson record. So there. And then this was a fun one in there. This is a 12-inch by EU called Taste of Your Love. And I was thrilled to get this because I was a big fan of EU. Experience Unlimited, as I now know, which is another story. I didn't realize that was their name. I just always knew them from the mid 80s to the early 90s as EU. And a couple months ago, I picked up a copy of the first record, Experience Unlimited, and didn't know until this morning that band was this band. So that was interesting. But this was a great record. This is a 12-inch for Taste of Your Love with the redone version of Debut from the previous year's record. I think that came out on a record a year before and was in, I think, School Days from Spike Lee. And that was everything that I found at the thrift store. But that was kind of a fun little haul. Interesting records for basically no money. And then I went to my local record store yesterday, and somebody had brought in a pretty good collection of interesting records from late 70s, early 80s. And it's my local record store. They price things really well. And so I'm going to go through those right now, and I'm very happy about this stack. So the first are a few anthologies that are sort of punk, new wave, kind of early 80s indie stuff. First one is The Vinyl Solution, which has a bunch of, sort of fun late 70s, mostly, I think, mostly British punk, Buzzcocks, Generation X, Stranglers, Saints, Australian, Stiff Little Fingers, 999, Dead Kennedys, American, UK Subs, Cockney Rejects, The Damned. It has a version of Jet Boy, Jet Girl by The Damned, which I didn't have a copy of. And if you've seen my videos, I love that song. So it's got a bunch of other really fun things too. So that was interesting. Couple bucks. Great little collection. The next one is IRS Greatest Hits Volumes 2 and 3. Again, this is 1981, I believe. So it's kind of a great little collection. Flesh Tones, let's see, Alternative TV, Squeeze, Scoffish, The Damned, Clark Kent, Stranglers, Cramps, Payolas, The Fall. It's a double LP set, Oingo Boingo. So some great stuff. Records were in great shape. The inner sleeves, not so much, kind of falling apart. But so IRS on kind of a rainbow label, which is interesting. Usually the IRS label is the silver with the little guy in the glasses and hat. So that's an interesting label for them. Good collection, though. The next one is the Enigma Variations, which is this guy here, 1985. So this is a collection of bands that were on Enigma. It's got some great stuff on it, too. Let's see. Rain Parade, Pandora's, Leaving Trains, Green on Red, Game Theory, 45 Grave, The Effigies, Kraut, Red Cross, TSOL, Channel 3, Untouchables, SSQ. There's a lot of really good stuff on here, and some of it is unreleased. The Green on Red and the TSOL looks like those were unreleased tracks. So a lot of great stuff on there if you like that period of music. So yeah, couldn't go wrong with that. A copy of Herbie Hancock's Mega Mix, remixed by Grandmixer D Street. And this is Rocket, Autodrive, Future Shock in a sort of single mega mix. So I've heard this before, but it's been a very long time, and happy to get that. A copy of Wall of Voodoo's Call of the West. This is definitely a record that I've been looking for a while. I guess everybody calls these grails here. Not an expensive record. This was pretty cheap. This was just a few bucks, but this is in just beautiful condition. And I'm a big fan of the first two records from Wall of Voodoo, the ones that had Stan Ridgway on them. You know, they're really well known for Mexican radio, and a lot of people, I guess, have thought of Wall of Voodoo as a sort of one-hit wonder, but both of their first two records are really great, and Stan Ridgway's solo work was great too. He came out with a record, I think shortly after this one, just a year or two after A Call of the West, with a song called Camouflage that was great. He did some work on the Rumblefish soundtrack. Really just good stuff. Let's see. Came across the DBs. I think this is their second record, second or third. It might be second. This is still the original lineup, so I think it's the second record. This is Repercussion. Couldn't pass that up. Good record. DBs were a really good band. So next is a copy of 999's The Biggest Tour in Sport, which is a 12-inch release of a live version of Homicide and Feelin' Alright. This is supporting the previous year's record, which was The Biggest Prize in Sport, but this is apparently an American tour. I'm not sure where this was recorded. They list all the dates on here, but I don't think they actually say where the songs were recorded. So, interesting though. Wish I could have seen them then, but I was just a kid. So, let's see. Next, copy of the Long Riders' Native Sons. The Long Riders were a kind of early alt country that came out of the Paisley Underground scene in LA. This is a really good record. It has a lot of influence from the Byrds, and in fact, on this, Gene Clark sings on Ivory Tower. So they actually, real close relationship there. But really good record. I think they recorded 2 or maybe 3 records with this lineup. And I saw them in, I don't know, I was in high school, so 84, around the time of this record. So and they were great. I liked that whole scene, the whole Paisley Underground scene. Then Bebop Deluxe, Sunburst Finish. This is the third record from Bebop Deluxe. I'm new to Bebop Deluxe, really. I was a fan of Bill Nelson in the 80s. I liked a lot of his solo work, but never went back and listened to anything from Bebop Deluxe. And so this was really the first time I spent any time listening to that band. Excuse me. And I was just curious to see what it would be like. It's okay. There's some good stuff on it. Maybe it was a little. Like it doesn't really strike me as anything terribly special. At least this record. I know a lot of people really like Bebop Deluxe. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more listening, and maybe the first couple records will seem a little bit more original. This didn't feel that way, and it might be because I'm listening to it after I've heard everything else that artists have influenced. So it's not always fair to go back and listen to things later and judge them from a different time period. So, but Naked Lady on the cover, which I can never pass up. Then a really nice copy of Purple Rain, just beautifully clean, and includes all the original poster, and it's, I don't know if it's a first pressing, doesn't really matter to me, but it does have all of the the inner sleeve and poster, and it's got that great custom label. So yeah, I'm just slowly trying to get my Prince records back, but I haven't really dived into that too much. And then the last record is the biggest surprise to me, just tucked away in the sort of new finds bin at my record store, was a copy of Prehistoric Sounds by the Saints. And this is the Saints' third record? Oh, geez. I think this might be the third record. But this is an original first pressing, Australian pressing, which, again, not really a collector, but kind of surprising to me that that's what it would be, and that I found that in there. But the first 3 Saints records are really great. And I don't know how easy it'll be for me to come across the first record. It's probably been repressed, I'm guessing, but I just haven't come across it anywhere. So I'll keep my eyes open, but that was a really nice find. So that's it. That's what I found this week. Some great stuff for me, which I don't generally come across the sort of punk indie stuff from the late 70s and early 80s very often. So somebody gave up a nice collection. In fact, I stopped looking after I realized how much I'd pulled, and there was more there. That's always painful to walk away from, but we do what we can. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.